Well, welcome to the Empowerment Podcast with Pastors John and Tim. This is a production of People Prosper International, where we are solving poverty in and through the church to change the world. So excited to be on this podcast, and my co-host for these podcasts is Pastor Tim Hargrove. So there you are, Pastor Tim. Brother, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
How's life in Texas?
Life in Texas is good. They lied to me when I moved to Dallas. They told me that we didn't get cold weather in Dallas, and it's been a mild winter so far. But this week we're actually getting our winter. We're dropping into sub freezing temperatures this week, but anyway, it's good. It's good. How's life there in the Four Corners?
Well, we don't feel sorry for you, so we've it's been cold, right?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, getting nicer out though, a little warmer in February. So we're happy.
Yeah. Good. So, Tim, today we are talking about the topic of creating the best value that we can, and how that is so central to really the purpose of our lives, living a life that is fulfilling, living a life that is a blessing to others, and really economically being able to earn enough for what we need. What are your thoughts about that topic?
Yeah, I think creating value is kind of a mystery sometimes in our thinking. We just kind of show up, we get caught up in our daily routine. We're just going down our checklist, and we're not really thinking about what are we contributing on a larger scale. And when I think about creating value, John, I'm thinking about things like, do you bring integrity to your workplace? Are you a servant leader? Are you responsible? Are you a person that solves problems? Are you a person that makes people want to come back again and do business with you repeatedly if it's in the marketplace? If you're creating value at home, it may just be, are you really bringing a healthy attitude into your family? Or are you struggling with moods? It could be a lot of things that we're thinking about for creating value, but all these things, when you start adding them together, it creates a result that is something that's incredibly valuable.
That's a good way of saying it. It seems like, and I've certainly done this at times in my life, but you see people who just kind of go get the easiest job they could get, or what they felt comfortable or confident at the time, I can get it. And then once they get into the job, they just kind of lower their head and just kind of do the tasks, not really thinking at a higher level of how am I doing it and am I creating value. Sometimes, unfortunately, I think some people do just enough to keep the job, and put the least amount of effort into it. And so I appreciate your perspective on that, because that's one thing. I mean, I think most people know it by now, but you've come on staff with us now at People Prosper International. But I worked with you in local church ministry for 25 years. And, one of the things I really appreciated about you is that was your attitude all along, which was, how can I bring the best value I can to this organization? And I really appreciate you speaking into our lives and the people on this podcast on that topic.
Thank you, John.
So our guest today is a guy, I was trying to figure out how many years I've known this guy. At least 15, but I suspect more than that. He is a comedian. He is an actor. He is a speaker. He is a trainer, and he is a killer competitive mountain biker. And he got me into mountain biking a number of years ago and almost killed me several and but anyway, I'm happy to introduce our good friend James Jones. This is James. Hey James, how you doing, brother?
Hey
James.
Good morning, all the way from Farmington, New Mexico.
I know, man.
Long way from Texas.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm broadcasting from Dallas, Texas. You guys are in Farmington, New Mexico, in the Four Corners. And so before we started the broadcast, I was telling you guys I didn't think about it, but we could have put you guys together in the same studio. But hey, this is convenient. We're all in our homes and we're shooting away. So hey James, out of curiosity, I see the logo on your shirt, but I don't think I see the whole logo. And I think you're wearing the beaded necklace that is also your brand logo. Is that right? Oh no, you're wearing a different necklace.
Yeah,
That's not the Warrior Strong.
no, it's a like a little feather.
Okay,
Also a pin.
man,
They said sign a contract.
that's like the multi-tool right there. And then your Warrior Strong logo is on your
Yeah, yeah. It's my it's actually my clan on my dad's side, which is the Bear Clan, which
Nice.
using that as a logo. Yeah, I seen that all the time, and it's amazing how God will put things, because as we all know that the world and everything in it God owns.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he guided me to this logo, and I've been using that logo ever since. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
I like it. I like speaking of logos, we all have our PPI coffee
Yeah.
cups. Everybody hold up your PPI coffee cup. So
Yeah.
People Prosper International. There it is. This coffee will transform your coffee to be the best coffee you've ever tasted. In your life. Awesome. So anyway,
It's dry.
So James, we've introduced this topic that we're talking about today, which is how do you create the best value that you can, and that's important. It's important because it helps us live the life we're supposed to live at the highest level, and on an economic point of view to be able to earn the kind of income that we really need for our lives. So we want to interview you on some of that, but just kind of what's your initial thoughts on the topic of creating the best value we can?
I think every day we create value. It just depends on if we have the mindset to keep it. Sometimes we get in jobs where we're like thinking that we're working for the boss or we're working for this organization, but we have to keep in mind that God has given you that job, first of all. So if you say that, oh, I hate my boss, I hate this is mundane, you're actually complaining to God about the very prayer that you said that I need a job. Once you start to connect your mind with your heart and saying, I am doing this for God, it turns differently. Like I remember one of your sermons saying that God is the initial mover in your life. It's if we're listening to it that we're able to going to sustain our lives. So when even this trying times, I had to pick up a job. It's God telling me, just do this for a little while. But our pride gets in the way. We get hurt. We're not creating value. But I've learned that, okay, God, this is what you want me to do right now. And I've created value through the ministry of mountain biking. People have gotten into mountain biking because that I helped somebody get a bike, or there was a non-English speaker that only spoke Navajo. A lot of elderly people came through. I started to create value. People wanted to come to the bike shop because I spoke Navajo, or because that I was a mountain biker, or it was because that I knew what I was talking about, or so I made it seem. But
no, you know mountain biking, and you know mountain bikes. I know that.
And I work down there because God says that's where I need you right now.
Yeah.
When you have that calling, no matter how lowly you might be shoveling crap, remember God has you there for a reason.
And literally, because I have shoveled as a job. Yeah. And so no, that's right. And that's what the Bible says. The Bible says, serve your master. In modern language, serve your employer as God, as you work for God. You don't work for your employer. So do your work as unto the Lord. And so that means we go in and we say, man, I'm going to give it good effort. I'm really going to be thinking about what I'm doing. I'm going to try to initiate and solve the problems that are around me. And you're right. I think sometimes people feel like, I want to get this really big jump in my life. I want to become the president of a company, or I want to have this big important position. I want to get this position where they pay you all kinds of money. What they don't realize is that we grow our lives step up by step up. And a lot of times the first step is start where you are.
Exactly.
Start where you are by creating more value where you are. You know, for some people that may mean show up to work on time and show up sober. Pastor Tim, you know,
Hey, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't
no,
have said that right off the bat.
and you know, and that's kind of, I mean, it's not where everybody is, obviously, but it's where some people are. You know, be
Right.
consistent, show up, but then once you were there, don't go in with your head down. That's kind of the way I say it. Don't go in with your head down where I'm just doing enough to get this task done or not get in trouble. Go in with your head up. What's the best stuff I can do today, and how do I do it
Yeah.
well? So I'm glad you went there, James, on that. I think that's a great way to
Oh, yeah.
start. So let me let's I want to ask you several questions about your journey, James, and get Tim circling into this interview with us also. So you kind of one of the early things that you did that really started getting you more into the context of what is really using your gifts and your abilities before you got into comedy work is you were doing other kind of work. So tell us what kind of work were you doing before you kind of started breaking into the comedy deal?
I was working for Farmington Schools as a grounds maintenance. And I came from Phoenix, which we were living there for 6 years. And it was, it felt like the rug was pulled out from under us. I had a company truck, I had the company credit card, I had a company phone. I was living high, I was going good for the reasons that are beyond me. And I'm chalking it up to God's guidance. Now, this is the part where we feel like sometimes the rug has been pulled out from under us, but God is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Every step of the way. Now that I look back at it, God was still there. Even when I didn't believe in myself, God was still there.
Mm-hmm.
So when we moved back, we had no home, we had nothing. I had no job. Everything was just gone. What I did have was my wife, which we had just been married, and then we have this newborn baby that we have. So I started looking for a job in Farmington. Nothing matched the pay scale that I was making in Phoenix. And I came across a grounds maintenance worker for the city of Farmington, or Farmington Schools, I should say. And I took in some of the skills from what I learned there and just kind of being here. Then one day my wife says, there's an ad in the Navajo Times that says looking for Navajo stand-up comedians. At that time, comedy was very rare in Navajo culture. It's kind of like, these are the things that you're not supposed to do. Well, giving me this gift to kind of step outside those boundaries.
Yeah.
And I kind of got frustrated, and I said, you know what? This is not going to pay our bills. This is just a pipe dream. How many times have we told ourselves that the talent that we have is just nothing but a pipe dream, that we can never make it on our talent?
Yeah.
But God says you can. I'm putting this in front of you.
Yeah.
Are you going to go that direction?
Yeah.
Me, I crumbled that Navajo Times and I threw it in the trash. Leave that alone. We got to concentrate. We're trying to do the job. And something happened 2 weeks later. Nobody dumped out the trash. So I picked up that paper and I called that number. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. I can't fall off the floor. So let's see what.
Yeah.
And, obviously my wife believes in me. All my life, I've always heard that, oh, you're funny. You should do something with that. When I was in my dark days of drinking and drugging, I was like the party animal of everything, every movie that you've ever seen. And people would always say, you need to do something that I was like, that's not me. I'm just a red boy. Woo, that mentality right there of saying that I can't do it, or because of my background, it really put myself in a cage and saying that I can't do it. Talk about the world just pounding on you and for years and years telling you that you're no good for nothing, you'll never amount to anything. Wow. And we start to believe, why is it so easy to believe in something that's negative?
Right.
But something positive, that God says, I want you to come this way. I want your life to be greater. I want you to create value. I want you to lead. Me, leader, me be funny, me being in the spotlight. Nah.
Yeah.
So reluctantly, I filled out the application. I called the number and I said, how many contestants are there? I said, there's about 30.
So it was a contest. It was a contest. It was how you kind of what they were looking for.
Yeah. And come to find out, it was two guys just trying to make a buck so they could party. And here it turned in for a career for us.
Wow.
And I didn't know what I was getting into. Next, you know, I was getting interviewed by the Daily Times, and I was like, is this really happening? And I went little by little, step by step. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And when you're starting to walk on something that's like a baby learning how to walk, they don't realize that they're walking until they get to the next step. And I started to walk. I started to take my baby steps.
So
what?
Wow.
Put all this together.
So one of the things you talked about, which is huge, and I know Tim talks about it a lot, and that is the biggest barrier you had to overcome was your mental barrier.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tim?
Oh, listen, James, first of all, thank you for being so vulnerable, right? And telling the real story, because I think that helps us all, because those limiting beliefs start coming in. If you don't think you're a person of value, how in the world are you ever going to create value somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And I talk a lot with people about letting go of their limiting beliefs and just identifying those. When I was working in some a business organization here in the community, we talked about it daily. And well, I've learned that belief drives behavior. Belief drives behavior. So when you say, I want to have the behavior that I'm going to go out and create value, and I'm going to improve my family situation, I'm going to improve my career, I'm going to improve my health, all those things are behaviors. If there's not a belief behind those behaviors, what I think is that we don't continue.
Mm-hmm.
The fear takes over, our insecurity takes over, we get stuck right where we're at. And unfortunately, I think that's where many people get stuck, and they just stay there for years and years and years. And I love your reaction, James. First of all, you're one of the funniest people that I know. And I got to travel with you to Kenya, and we had a blast, didn't we? And I don't know if we did anything important, but we really had a good time. And, you know,
Yeah, you did both. I know what you guys did. You had fun and you did important stuff.
we did. But what you just said, James, is so huge, right? Is just deal with your limiting beliefs and don't let those get you stuck in one place in your life that you don't want to be.
So James, let me kind of go back into that story. Ask you. So it was a stand-up comedy contest, and I guess this is the first time you'd ever done a stand-up comedy routine. And is that correct?
Yeah.
And what was that like, and what happened?
I was scared out of my mind. I was like, holy cow, what did I get myself into? I started doubting myself. What it takes, you know? I think everybody's just telling me what I want to hear. And man, I'm going on stage. I have these little bitty notes. I'm just kind of basing this on some of the music that I've always done antics to, like air guitar, music, 70s, the 80s, the 90s. How do I put this stuff together? I have absolutely no idea. I'm trying to read comedy books on some of the most famous stand-up out there. I'm like, but does this work for me?
Yeah.
And I think that we try to find those things. We try to read up on what other people have done. But I had to finally realize that just be yourself. Just be who you are. That's who people know you for. and I ended up winning that stand-up comedy competition.
And so once you got into the flow of doing your comedy, did you feel like you settled into it and felt like you were coming alive?
I finally, yeah, after the first one, after I broke the first 2 minutes, I finally felt like, okay, the crowd is roaring, the crowd is into it.
That's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, it's like taking a shot of the most caffeine that's strong, that it just lights up your soul.
Yeah.
And I think from that point, I went in and said, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is
So
what I want to be, this person now.
so you made a point that I think is key, and that is I believe that God created us for a purpose. He's given us some core gifts and talents to be able to live that purpose. And when we are doing that and creating value in that, it's a rush. I mean, you feel energized by it. You feel it's fun. The work becomes fun. I mean, every job has parts to it that aren't fun, but the core part of what you're doing is really, I mean, it gets you jazzed. It's motivating. Is Tim? Do you think is that what is that what you see happens?
Oh man, I think of Eric Little, the famous Olympic runner, and he said, when I run, I feel the pleasure of God.
Yeah.
And when you get into your zone of using the gift that God gave you, it doesn't matter whether the work is hard or easy. It doesn't matter whether it pays a lot or pays a little. When you get into that zone of doing that thing God's created you to do, that's where real fulfillment comes from.
Yeah.
And that's when you feel the hand of God using you to touch other people's lives. And there's nothing better than being used by God to me.
Yeah.
So James, tell us a little bit of the story. Okay, so how did it go from okay, I won this contest to now I'm going to do more comedy, and then you got to a point where you're like, I think I could make a living at this, and it had to be scary walking away from a job to do comedy.
Yeah.
Is that what you did? Tell us that story.
Yeah. Even then, even after I had like the most success, what I felt like was success, I was like, okay, well, I tried it, I want it, and it still had doubt in my mind. I still was like, okay, well, come Monday morning, I got to go back to work. I got to go back to working sprinklers and mowing lawns and cleaning up after. So it was like, okay, put the Cinderella shoes away.
Yeah.
You might not ever see those again. So, but God was there each step of the way. At this time, we barely started going to the Exciting Tabernacle Church.
Woo-hoo!
Oh man, those were the Exciting Tabernacle
Wow.
Baptist Church, man.
I didn't even know you were that old, James.
I didn't know you were there during the exciting days. You know, the former pastor led it to become called the Exciting Tabernacle Baptist Church,
Yeah.
Pastor Pinion. You know, so that was those were the days, man. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
My mom is the one that said one day, son, let's go to church. We're going to this church. It's right down the road from where you live. And at that time, we were living in a rental. We started in low rent housing down by Animas, and then we had after I got to work for the schools, we moved into a rental place, and that was just right down the road. We used to use the work truck to go to church, and we used to carry our son into church, and I didn't know what church was all about. So it was like my career in church, they were like bare seeds were starting to sprout, and it was just, where am I going with this? I don't know. And I think we always ask ourselves those questions, even when we do find a little bit of success, like this is not going to last. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that there was going to be something bad that was going to happen. It's like we set our minds up for disaster. We don't set our minds up for success and saying, okay, well, if there's an adversity that's going to happen, I'm going to deal with it, but I still know what my goal is. I still know where my value is. If there's bumps in the road, and there was bumps in the roads from that point, and there's probably going to continue to be bumps in the roads. I failed. We failed as a comedy duo, as James and Ernie. I teamed up with him, and we had one of the most horrible shows 2 years later that almost made us quit, both of us.
Really?
Nobody laughed from.
And why do you think it bombed?
We were brand new to it, and we were in a demographic that was totally different from Eastern people came in, Eastern side of the United States came in to have a conference in Albuquerque, and we went in. We have all the Southwest humor that nobody got, and then just bombed.
Well, as public speakers, Pastor Tim and I,
Wow.
we know
Been
what it's
there.
like. We know what it's like to bomb, and there's nothing out there but crickets, you know. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh man, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we know your pain, brother.
Yeah. And it's not you. I mean, some people will know you for the last show that you did, and if you bomb, they're always going to remember for you.
Yeah. We say the last sermon.
Oh my goodness. All right. So you're trying it, and you came to church. So church is, you know, what you're hearing at church is playing in your mind and your heart somehow, but you're trying to pursue this comedy thing also. And you've hit a big bomb.
Yeah.
So yeah, what happens?
I stayed up awake all night, and I laid in one place. It's like a movie. You could have probably put an aerial shot on me in time lapse, and it just went from 10 p.m. all the way to 6 a.m. and I'm still in the same place. I was thinking about, oh my gosh, I knew this was going to happen. I knew that I was going to fail. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to see if I can get my old job back at Farmington Schools. That was way easier to work for somebody.
A whole lot less pressure, man.
Yeah, a whole lot less pressure. I would have never felt this. You know, you start to point the finger, like, it's because this happened, because I wanted to do this. And there's that time where you're crying out to God. How could you let this happen? How could, you know? And the thing is it only made me stronger. So if you're thinking that you do have talent, but yet you bomb, it's only to make you stronger. And the best was yet to come. If I walked away from it that night, that morning, and said, okay, this is it. Call up my wife and say, all right, I'm coming home. This is it. We're just going to live in that rental for the rest of my life. But there was a sermon that Pastor John says your mentality, your goal is for home ownership. It seemed like that was the only thing that kept me going. I was like, it's the only thing I want to get to that point. I want to own my own house. Whatever it is, I want to own that house. And I picked myself up, and it kept going. We went to Gallup. I was so shattered. I was so fragile into the next show. I could barely even put two bits together. And we were supposed to go to San Francisco that following week, because all of a sudden this thing is unfolding, but we still have these other shows. I am scared out of my mind. I don't think I've ever done as much praying as I did in that whole week. Please don't let me fail.
Yeah. Spiritual growth.
Let me fail. This is a big stage. This is a big stage. How am I gonna do this? You know, I'm going to San Francisco. I just bombed. I'm fragile. And I don't want to let nobody know that I'm fearful. I don't want to let my wife know that I am scared. That I am terrified. I don't want to do this. But it kept in the back of my mind that one day that's going to happen. One day. And you know, you have one of those, you try to use the Bible as a ball, right? We've all done it. We flip through the pages. Okay, what does this say? Magic 8-ball of the Bible.
That's a good way of putting it. 8-ball in the Bible.
Yeah. That's so funny. Hey, that's how I preach, man. You better stop.
8-ball.
He 8-balled it.
And we went to San Francisco, and we got to meet like Fox TV. We got to meet people represented from NBC Studios. And I'm like, I just don't feel right. You know, my flesh is telling me that, nah, you're not gonna make it. You're gonna bomb again.
Yeah.
And we went on stage and we were contracted for 12 minutes. At the end, we had a standing ovation.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Well,
Awesome.
it confirms one of the things that I've always said, and that is nothing purifies a soul like getting your butt kicked.
Yeah, some good
And
old fashioned failure.
so let me go back to a point that you're talking about. The reason why we were talking about home ownership at that time is because what we have learned is that the difference between those who are stuck in poverty and those who can grow their prosperity, one of the big differences is the ability to become a legal owner of property. And so we teach that around the world. We see people in Africa doing it, Haiti, the Philippines, different places. We see people that they just didn't know that is a really key strategic to solving one's own poverty and helping other people solve poverty. So that's why we were talking about that. So and in your life, I know that you eventually did buy a home. It's a nice home. I've been in it a number of times, and but yeah. Anyway, so that's how all that connects. So by this time in your comedy journey, have you gone full time with comedy yet, or you're about to go full time with comedy?
I had gone full time, but when I started full time, there was people around me that were like, no, don't do it. You have a job here, grow in that job, and you'll do better. And just use comedy as a side
A hobby,
hobby. Yeah. And when I told some of my closest relatives, they're like, don't do it. That's nobody's ever made a success of comedy. And it was like that. I doubted, and it's like your own family. You would think like, yeah, go
No.
do it. You know, sky's the limit.
No.
Graduation speeches that they gave me, it seemed like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
You know, nobody's listened to that. You can do it from graduation.
Yeah.
No, you can't do it. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
man. And Tim, how often is it that when a person really starts taking the risk to do the things they're really called to do, often the closest people in their lives are the naysayers?
Yeah, I've been really blessed in that my wife and my mom and dad have been cheerleaders,
Yeah.
for me and risk taking. But you definitely have to be very careful about who you're going to listen to. I kind of say it as I want to listen to people of faith. If I know they're people of faith and they love me, then I'm willing to listen.
Yeah.
And but I have discovered, James, and you've addressed this so well, and in your great way of doing it, is when you step out to do some risk taking, it makes other people afraid for you, right?
Yeah.
Like it scares us, but it scares people around us. And I've no question, I've scared the bejeebies out of the people around me. I never forget the look on my mom's face when I told her I was going to move to Los Angeles when I was 19.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, oh, that's an awesome idea.
Mhm.
That's not what she was thinking, and that's not what her face was telling me.
Yeah.
But
So
it was
So let me expand on that just a little bit. For those of you that are listening to this podcast, you're not seeing it live, or those of you who don't know Pastor Tim, his story is that he was born with a bone disease he had 43 broken bones by the time you were 12 or something like that, and it caused him to lose a lot of the normal height that he would have had. So Tim, we call him sweet and low. He's short. He's a short dude. Tim, how tall are you?
Well, the last time I measured was 4'8", and I haven't measured in a long time because I really don't want to know now.
Yeah. So I was thinking it was 4'8" And so when you see Tim, you're like, oh man, the dude's short. What's going on with that? And so when people would see you at first, they would have sense of, okay, this guy's got limitations in his life on what you can do. And your mom, obviously, she was the rock star in your life growing
Oh,
up,
yeah.
and you know, just guiding you through all these challenges of all these broken bones and how do you get through school and how do you live a normal life. And then you pop it on her at 19. I'm moving to Los Angeles. I can see how it would scare the tar
Yeah.
out of her, you know. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
and I want to do a whole podcast on your story in the future. But yeah, no, that was a big one.
it's a big one. And James, you know, God bless you, man, for taking the risk, right? For
Yeah.
stepping out. There's nothing like stepping out on a stage by yourself or you're with another person. Wow. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
And scary stuff.
So
And
James, go yeah, go ahead.
Navajo Nation to the Oglala Nation to Six Nations Mohawk going to Florida, it started to spread like wildfire, and I discovered that Native humor really needs their own, and not only Native humor, but it was growing into something bigger. It kept going, and then pretty soon I was doing movies where Robert Redford was the executive producer. I was doing both voiceovers for Star Wars, Navajo translation. I was sitting with tribal leaders at events. Talk about God saying that one day I'm going to sit you among the kings. I'm going to sit you among the leaders of nations. This little res kid from Shiprock, New Mexico,
Wow.
that grew up with government housing and lost my dad at 6 months old, and alcoholism and drugs was all I knew, and my mom was trying to hold all this together. So my mom is the strongest man I know, and that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
But all this doubt and fear that had been instilled in me as a kid, it's like it dissolved through time. To see my kids now one of them is headed off into the military, one of them works at Target, and I got the twins coming up. They're gonna be in high school now. And to see us, my wife and I, 20 years later, when all I could see was just wreckage of relationships, living on the reservation and through my whole life, it's like God had pulled me through all of this.
Wow.
Just believe. It's like he kept saying, just believe in me. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. And then getting stricken with cancer, he's like, I'm still going to take care of it. And he took the cancer away, and I'm living cancer free. And then this whole pandemic happened. Oh man, what am I going to do? I started to have doubt again. We're always going to have that doubt because we have that sin nature about us that we doubt, no matter how strong that we say we are. We still have that doubt.
Yeah.
How much I pay for my house and my vehicles and all that. God stepped in, still found a way to have me make just as much as if I was working.
Wow.
So the comedy platform started leading to other things. It started leading to some acting. You said voiceover. You have gotten into doing training. There are several topics that you do training on. You do special speaking on. All of those are public performance oriented. So when COVID hit, and it has hit the Navajo reservation exceptionally hard, similar to the way that the Spanish flu did back in 1918. It's been horrible. But essentially it is shut down your capacity or the freedom to be able to go and do live performances. So I mean, this has been a big deal. So talk a little bit about the kinds of things you got into, and then a little bit more about what kind of struggles you've hit along the way. That you've mentioned cancer, you've mentioned the COVID thing, you've mentioned alcoholism issues and drug issues from the past. So talk to us a little bit about the things you got into, and then some of the barriers along the way.
I think the greatest challenge was just my mindset of all of this growing up as a kid, and seeing the domestic violence and the drugs. And I became an alcoholic and a drug addict for many years until finally one day I said,
What was your drug of choice?
I had marijuana and cocaine, and if I had more than enough money, or if I stole money, then I had more drugs. But it was always kind of just living under the bridge here in Farmington, because I grew up in Kirtland, and I found myself just
Literally living under the bridge in Farmington.
literally living under the bridge because I didn't want to go home. I didn't want my mom to see me that way.
Okay.
She had faced that all her life too. And it was like I was adding to that fuel. I was adding to her being embarrassed of me. And we get into that mindset when those things that have hurt us deeply, we don't want to hurt other people, but yet we still do it anyway. And that's where I was at until one day I finally decided. And it was just, even when I didn't believe in God, that he stepped in, and it's like, this is it. And I poured out that beer. I took the keg out of my car, and I was like, I'm out, man. I'm out. Yeah, was it tough for the next few days, facing all the demons that are leaving your body? Yeah, it's one of the most horrific experiences that a human body can go through, withdrawals. And I wanted to drink so bad. I wanted I wanted something to just take it away. Cried, all these things that came with the addiction. And when you have addiction, whether it be just alcohol or drugs, it can be anything. There's going to be withdrawals. If you're addicted to social media, if you're addicted to money, if you're addicted to fame and fortune, or if you're addicted to pornography, it's going to be the same. There's going to be withdrawals. There's going to be times where you're like, man, I don't want this, but I know that this is the right direction that I should be in. And when I sobered up, I was able to take it one day at a time. And that's how you have to view it, is one day at a time. Today is the day that the Lord has made. It doesn't say that tomorrow is in the next weeks and the next months. It says today. Yeah. So
I'm looking at our time here, and so I'm going to start moving us towards some concluding things on this. But for the work that you're doing, James, now you're doing training, comedy is an option, training on certain topics. Tell our audience what kind of things that you are booking now that people can do. Are you doing some online training? Are you waiting for COVID to lift? But I want people aware of how they can contact you and book you, and the kinds of things you do, and the kinds of things you offer.
Yeah, everything that I had talked about is now my motivational tools that God has put me through all of these things to be that beacon now for people who are facing that, who are going through that. So I call it humor healing. There's comedy, and then there's, just like you've seen here, this is how our presentation, we laugh, we cry, we listen, and it's based on biblically based. But come to find out that more and more our elders had taught the same thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Of how you talk, of how you present yourself, that the things that you do now will set you up for success. But we forgot about that. And I'm just a reminder. Now, I'm not they have the tools, they have the talent, they have the gift. You have the gift, you have the talent. But what are you going to do with it now that you can be successful in it? What you need, not what you want. God will give you what you need, even though we want to be out on stage, even though we want to be away from this and not wear a mask and only walk around like this. But yeah, and you can find me on the website at jamesjunes.com, or on my Facebook page, also the same name, under the same name. And then so all of this, then I had to finally get a website. I had to finally get merchandising. There's so many different facets to this business that now, after 19 years, this is where we're at. And I plan to be here till I can't remember my own name.
Well, we're getting there closer and closer every day. We're getting to that point. So you've got merchandise. Is it the Warrior Strong brand that you're merchandising?
Yeah, Star Wars. It's recognized by Disney and the
Huh.
501 Legion from Albuquerque. So it's a legitimate attire that I do sell since I was inducted into the 501st Legion, which is a branch off of Star Wars itself. And they have the blessings from Disney and Star Wars and Lucasfilms and all of that. So
Nice.
yeah, not outside of the lines that I'm doing this. It's God's initially, but He has given me the reservoirs. So I do all these different things with reservoirs t-shirts, and it has the translation of "May the Force be with you" on the back.
Star Wars to the res wars. I like it. I
Well,
like
we
it.
couldn't find Chewbacca as a voiceover because he already spoke Navajo.
Oh, he did. Is that what that was? Oh, good. The code talker Chewie Baca. That's
He was a
That's
Wookiee
funny.
talker.
he was a Wookiee code talker. That's awesome.
That's funny.
Well, so let me do this to kind of wrap up our topic today. And that is, I'm sure there's somebody listening today in their car or in their home or somewhere, and they're listening to this idea of create the best value that you can. And that journey of doing that, thinking that way and acting that way is what really moves you into your purpose for which God created you. It's also the economic path to be able to earn enough for the life God has planned for you. So I'm going to ask you both to just kind of respond to that. If somebody's listening and thinking, man, I don't think I'm on that path. Where would you take them on that? And I think Tim, I'll ask you to respond to it first, and I'll let James have the last word on it.
Excuse me. Yeah, one of the things I would say to folks is invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Believe that you're valuable enough. Your gifts and abilities are valuable. Don't let the doubt take over. Invest in yourself. For me, that meant that I needed to become a reader. It meant that I needed to go back to school. It meant that I needed to get out there and speak, even though I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
It meant that I need to sit down with wise counsel from time to time. I like to tell people you need to get healthy so that you can get strong, so that you can get moving.
Mm-hmm.
Get healthy, get strong, get moving.
Yeah, that's a good thinking right there.
Yeah. So whatever you have to do to invest in yourself so you can get healthy, get strong, and get moving, please do it. Please do it and know that God loves you and that God's going to help guide you through that journey, just like He did James. What an amazing story, James. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love it. So yeah, James, what would you say to that person that's listening to this thinking, man, I'm not on that journey, but I need to get on that journey. What's next? What should they do?
You are on that journey. It's time to get busy. It's time to quit thinking that I can't do this, that I can do this. We got to quit having wishbone. We've all had wishbone. I wish I could lose weight. I wish I could be a mountain biker. I wish I could do this. I wish I could get out of debt. The only way those are going to happen is you're going to have to take those baby steps. Take it one day at a time. That's what the addiction is you got to take it one step at a time. Yeah. God gives you today. Tomorrow's not promised. But what are you going to do today? Mm-hmm. I like that scene in the movie Johnny Cash. He says, if you were going to be dirt tomorrow and you're going to sing one last song, what song would it be? Would it be the same song that we've always heard all the time? Or are you going to sing something that comes from right here, your heart? He says, because that truly saves people.
One of your sayings I've heard you say is you have to change, you have to switch your wishbone for a what?
For backbone.
There you go.
You gotta have. Yeah. I mean, you gotta be strong. You gotta be diligent because, as all of us know right here, the devil is constantly working against us. Yeah. Every day, every second. The Bible says is like a lion being caged, and he despises us because of what we do. Yeah. He's ready to throw salt in our game. He's ready to do it for you. He's worked inside your mentality to where he says, you can't do it. What makes you think that you can do it? Who do you think you are? Look at what you've done. Look at what you've done. He's going to show you everything that bad that you've done in your life. You know what? God says when he was tempted by the devil, he says, but it is written. It is written that I will prosper. There's not one thing in the Bible that tells you that there's something negative about us. It says, but it is written that he will prosper me. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. If that's a declaration from God himself that says that I'm going to do this for you, God, we're standing right in front of you right now. He says, I'm declaring that I will prosper you.
Man, James has also added preacher. He's added preacher to the list, man.
Dude, I'm gonna get you some of those gigs too.
I think you're gonna have churches. You're gonna have churches going. I gotta go to James. It's jamesjunes.com. Is that what it is?
Yeah, jamesjunes.com. It's
great.
the same because it intertwines all of this, and I use exactly what I'm showing you in my motivational presentations.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Great. So I would just summarize it this way. I'd say wherever you are, start where you are with what you have. Start where you are with what you have and just say, how can I do one step better? It may mean I'm just going to give better effort in the job that I have, or I'm going to go find and seek the job. It may be scary going for the interview, but I'm going to go seek the job that I want. And see if I can get it, or I'm going to look for an opportunity to do something I've been wanting to do, and I'm just going to step through the fear and just try to get that done. So start where you are with what you've got and look for what's the next step I can take to do a little bit better. And here's what happens. Your life doesn't change a lot quickly, but if you keep doing that as a lifestyle, in time, your life changes dramatically. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's the law of cause and effect. Cause and effect, sowing and reaping.
Yeah. All right, guys, man, thank you, James, for being with us. Tim, good to see you again today. And this has been the Empowerment Podcast with Pastors John and Tim, production of People Prosper International, where we are solving poverty in and through the church to change the world. And if you'd like to know more about People Prosper International or to access some of our resources, we'll be loading up podcasts on this site also. Or if you'd like to become a prayer partner or a financial partner or a program partner with People Prosper International, please go to our website, which is peopleprosper.org. So you can go to jamesjunes.com for James's stuff. You can go to peopleprosper.org for our organization. And so until next time, let me leave you with this blessing, and that is this: go forth and conquer.
God bless you guys.
We are out of here.